Hi, everyone. I'm just going to talk a little bit about five steps, but essentially we might end up calling them components as we go on, and I'll explain why we do that. That'll help you to make your business sustainable. And by sustainable, I don't just mean in terms of environmental and governance and sustainability for the environment, although that's important. But as a business owner, you'll find that it is hard work running a business. And so these things that I'm going to talk to you about today are ways that it will become easier for you to run a business. But I'd like to start with a little bit about me. This is me a number of years ago, and probably quite a number of kilograms ago, I should imagine. I've been involved in building and scaling businesses since I left a very successful career as a scientist, actually. And that was very different. Many people who come into this sort of field, and it's really given me a series of foundations which I now use to have helped me build a couple of businesses that I've left, and it now helps me to explain to people how they could build a sustainable business and turn it into something which they run rather than running them. I call this my scientific value building machine, and it's been designed really to help you plan, execute a business which you are in charge of, rather than it spending time. You spend a lot of time trying to catch up and run around and make yourself tired whilst you're running that business. It's been something that I've been talking about now for sort of 12 to 15 years, so it's pretty well tested in the market. And the thing that I try to sort of talk to you about today are 5 things which really are about turning your business into a machine which builds momentum. And there are 5 really essential components to that machine. If you think of a machine, you put something in at the beginning, it transforms that thing that you put in. If you think about a car going down the road, you put electricity into it nowadays in the form of a battery. It turns that into movement, and you end up getting somewhere with it. So that's the same principle that we're using on a business. We put something into the business: our time, our energy, our enthusiasm, our thoughts, and what comes out at the end, we hope, is a satisfied customer. So what are the 5 components that you need to start installing in that machine for you to have a successful business? They're here on screen in front of you. The first of those is to have a vision. And I'm not going to be able to deal with all of these in great detail. I'm going to go through them, and then I'm going to sort of focus on a couple which I find are the most useful for people who are really starting out in their small business and they really need to get to grips with. So the first is that you really need to have a vision of what you're doing. Now, you need that vision, and it's really composing of your purpose and your values. You can't have your purpose to be get up in the morning and make money. It's not sustainable. You need something else to drive you to get up in the morning. So you need to understand what that is, and you need to be able to articulate what that is. You need to be able to tell your customers why is it you are helping them to solve the problems they have, whether it be they need help from you as a charity, or whether or not what they're looking for is a solution to something which is really difficult in their life. So you need to have that purpose to drive you. And if you don't have that purpose, you will find it difficult to run a business, because unless you have that purpose, you'll find that the business does start to run you. It needs to be beyond making a profit, though. And the second part of your vision has to be your values. Now, values are a real guiding principle which helps your business to operate. They should really reflect what your company stands for. They should guide the decisions that you take, from hiring through to marketing. I often talk to people about their vision, and the vision is difficult for them, but think of it as the thing that sort of, when you get to it, you realize it's the treasure. You know what you want your business to be in 5-10 years time. You know how you want it to be operating. So the vision should be something which has that purpose. But the values are a really incredibly important part of that. The values are things that you not just put on your website, but that you know that you want your business to share amongst anybody that you're employing. So you need to get really clear on what the purpose of your business is. What is it that gets you up in the morning? And you need to be really clear on what the values are. The second thing that you really need as part of the initial stages of getting your business up and running are goals. Business goals are the specific objectives that your company is going to aim to achieve. They're linked to what we've just described in terms of those vision and values, but they're really the thing which sort of says, this is how I know I'm getting somewhere. Now, a goal may be something which is a year from now or 5 years from now. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you that a goal has to be is measurable. A goal has got to have with it that thing which has got numbers on it. Now, that may be difficult to assess, and I can talk to you about a little bit at the moment about those numbers. But it needs to be something which actually you can measure at the time that you say you're going to do. Now, goals are often expressed in this thing called SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. I'm going to be a bit controversial and say that I think that's a bit of an acronym that doesn't make any sense to me. For me, a goal has to have only two things. You need to be able to measure it, and you need to know when you're going to measure it. So if you've got it measurable, it's very likely to be specific. And if you can put a measure and a time to when you time to it when you're going to measure it, it's likely to be achievable and realistic. So for me, don't worry about the specific, achievable and realistic part of SMART. Just go for what is it I'm going to measure and when am I going to measure it, because that's when I'll know if it's been achieved or not. From knowing those, you can then do the next thing which you need to do in starting your business and say, what are the rocks, boulders, etc., that are in my way to achieving that goal? Because if you want to say you want to be turning over enough money to be able to pay your rent in 6 months' time, and you know what your rent is, you therefore can put a measure on how much you need to be turning over, if you like, how much you can pay yourself. And you know you need to be there by 6 months. And from that, you can say, okay, what are the things that are going to stop me getting there? And then once you've got those things put down, you have the ability to actually then say, okay, I can deal with those things and remove them from my path so that I can get there. That's not a fix. You'll need to revise those every time you get closer to your goal, but that's a monthly thing that you need to do, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So that's the first thing you need to put into your engine. You need to have vision and goals. I'm going to come on and do a little bit more about lead generation, but the second one, of course, is, well, you can't do any of this unless you can bring customers into your engine. So we're going to come to lead generation in a moment. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the fourth one, which is team cohesion. You might not at the moment know that you need a team, but even if you're interacting with people who are going to help you, you need to be able to work as a team. So let's come on to what we mean by repeatable excellence. I know a lot of business, and I was on a call with some this morning who tell me that they need to get consistency in their business. Things happen in an inconsistent way. The only way that I have been able to get consistency in the businesses that I've run is to write down how we do things. One of the things I learned pretty early in my career as building businesses was the fact that if I ever wanted to go away on a holiday, if I ever wanted to be able to go off sick and deal with a family issue, I needed to have people who could follow what we did in the same way that I knew. So I started writing things down. It's what I learned as a scientist, to write things down so that they were repeatable. It's the key element of what happens as a scientist. You have to be able to repeat what you did. And I learned that I had to write things down so that it was repeatable and it came out the same result every time we did it. I'm talking to a couple I'm working with at the moment whose plan it is to go away for 3 months at the end of this year to Canada, because they want to go back to where her one of the founders' parents first came from, and they want to show the kids where Granny and Granddad used to live. In order to do that, they need to be able to go away for 3 months. So they need to get to the stage where the business will continue operating when they're moved away for 3 months. And they do know that when they come back, they'll still have a business to come back to. So they've started writing things down so that they can pass it to people who will run the business in their absence. And one of the things they said to me recently was, we wish we'd started doing this from day one. So I now believe that you actually need to start writing some of this down from the very moment you start it. In fact, just having things written down means your business is twice as likely to be profitable and twice as likely to be valuable in the future. So write down how you do things from day one. It can always be changed as you get better, but having the discipline of writing things down so that other people can follow it means that you will be able to go on a holiday and pass it over to somebody else and say, this is how the business runs, do this. I said I'd come on to team cohesion, and the last thing I'm going to talk about is profit momentum. Profit momentum is about knowing what your profitability and cash flow management are all about. I know too many businesses that actually want to price their product as low as they can because they believe that they can attract a customer and they can get the money back later on. I get really worried by hearing that about many businesses, because for me, that's a false fallacy. It will always likely to be ending in problems. Customers are fickle. And if you start by giving them the lowest price product, they're only going to want to go down from there. It's very difficult to drive your profitability up if you're giving away stuff without something else to attract the customer. And too many of us have got 1 or 2 products, and once we give it away for very little, customers disappear and you've lost money on the deal. So my encouragement to you is, I know how difficult it is to think of your product as being a high price product or service, but you need to price it so that you make a profit. And you need to recognize that what customers buy on is not the price, but the value it brings to them. So you need to tell them about the value it brings, not the cost of the product. We could spend many hours talking about this, but the key thing to remember is it's really dangerous to start your journey building a business with a low price product in an attempt to suddenly build up your customer base and then start selling more expensive things to them. It's possible, but it needs to be something you have thought about in advance. So resist the temptation to sell your product or service at a low price to try and buy customers in, because it's very difficult to then upsell to the next product and make a profit on them. If you're going to do that, you need to have thought about it in advance. What is more valuable is to tell your customers about the value that you're bringing to them and how you're helping them to solve a problem, and that problem has a particular value in their life, and you are going to do better than the value. So for instance, if the value to a customer of buying your service is £200, you need to sell it to them for at least £200, but ideally a little bit less, so they can see they get something back. Even if it costs you £100 to produce that, do not be tempted to sell it at 100 or 90. You must sell it at 150 and tell them how you are delivering to them £150 value to solve a problem of £200, if that makes sense. It's a big subject, but it's the one thing that I do see too many people beginning in their business journey selling at low profitability in the hope that somehow it will attract customers, and it very rarely does. So those are the 5 components of the engine. And I'm going to sort of come on into a little bit more detail now about this one, which is the one that I think most people struggle with, and that's how to start generating the leads. So I'm going to give you a really quick overview of one of the lead generation systems that I'm teaching to people at the moment. And generating a steady stream of leads for any business is absolutely essential. So most of us are probably trying to sell either an online product, it didn't quite do what I expected, either an online product, or if it's a consultancy like coaching or a massage or something like that, some form of an appointment. So we need to sort of be able to demonstrate what that product will do, or that service will do for potential customers. And a lot of the time, the best way of doing that is to have something called a landing page. A landing page is very similar to something along the lines of a website, but it's a very specific website. And I'm going to tell you why, because there are certain elements that are absolutely critical that go on that landing page. And these are what I call my 10 elements of marketing. I'm a scientist, so this is going to look a little bit like something you've probably seen in a chemistry school book. And I'm sorry about that. It's the way I think. The first thing is on the left-hand side. These are what I call the marketing elements. And they're all very much the sort of things that you should have in your strategy, how we do things around here. The first of all, the landing page has to be targeted at the perfect client. If you have the ability to sell to 3 or 4 different types of customer, this is why I think that this is better than putting it onto a website. You have to be able to put it into their language. So you have to define what you want for a perfect customer and target it at one specific type of customer per landing page. You need to work out how you go about selling to that customer by understanding them. So you need to define them. And there are lots of ways of defining a perfect client. You'll see things about avatars and such like. It's using those tools in order to define your perfect client so that you understand the language that they speak. For instance, if they're vets, they have particular terminology. So you need to put the vet terminology onto the landing page. You need to work out exactly where they are, who they are, what language they speak, so you could define your landing page specifically to them. You then need to include what's different about you compared with your competition. It might be that you have more experience in this field. It might be that people say you're different, but you need to include that so that people understand why you are not your customer, your competition. Then you need some sort of guarantee. Now, we all know that we need to be able to provide certainty to customers so that they're prepared to give their money to us, which is what we're doing. We're exchanging our time, effort, intelligence, ideas for money. But they need to know that they're safe giving that money across, that they're not going to be ripped off. So we need to provide them with a guarantee, 30-day money back, something like that. Now, I always talk to potential businesses about what I call a business punishing guarantee, because the one thing you'll see a lot of is you can get your money back, but we often think there might be a catch in there somewhere. So I actually say to people, get the guarantee so good that people, even if they think to themselves, I'm going to end up giving this guy or this person some money, but they've made it so attractive that I know I can get back more than if I risk giving it to them. So you've got to make it sound as if your guarantee is going to do you more harm if you fail to deliver than they will risk by giving you money. The next thing you need to be able to describe on your landing page is what I call your proven process. What's the next step in the journey with you? Don't ask for a big step, because they're going to want to know what happens next. So you need to know in your mind what does happen next. And finally, the thing that I think is most important that you have is social proof. Where have you done this before? Who have you done it with? What did they think? I like to give this analogy. If you're walking down the street tonight, you're going for a meal, and you go into a restaurant, you're going to go most likely into the one where most people are currently eating. The reason is they look busy and they must be good because of that. So you need to appear like that very busy restaurant. People need to look at your landing page and go, lots of people have worked with them and lots of people think they're good. I need to work with the people that really think they're good. So if you're not starting to gather client testimonials, feedback from customers, what I call things like case studies, i.e. how you did it with the customer and what they got out of it, start gathering that now, because it's incredibly important to put that onto your website, landing page, onto things like Twitter, Instagram, so that people can see just how good you are. Okay, the other things that need to go onto your landing page, you need a good snappy headline. It needs to have action words in it, like, do this now. This will solve your problem. You need to have an offer, something which is irresistible. Remember, the offer needs to have a time on it. In other words, get this before Friday midnight when the price goes up. Get this now, only 24 left. We need to drive action. Human beings are uniquely able to decide not to do anything. They will sit and wait and think and not plan to do anything. So we need to put something on our landing pages in order to help people make a decision to go now. I'm going to talk a little bit now about one of the things that I see a lot of people do wrong on their landing page. If you're not looking, you'll see me holding up a stapler from my desk at the moment. Now, this stapler is made of metal. Now, and a lot of people on their product and services pages would describe this stapler as made of metal. I don't know why that's of an advantage to me, because why do I need something made of metal? The answer is, the reason it's made of metal is because it's more robust. It'll last me 20 years. In fact, I've probably had this 20 years. I've never had to buy another one. And it will staple through a very thick sheet of paper. Those are not the things that were described in the description when I bought this stapler. It was just a metal stapler. So you need to describe your metal stapler, which is an analogy, in case you haven't guessed it, for your product or service, in terms which are benefits to your customer. Why do they need this metal stapler? It's robust and will last them 20 years. It will staple lots of thicknesses of paper. Those are the sort of terms that you need to put in terms of the benefits. Too few people put benefits on their landing pages. They talk about the features of their product. Don't care about your features. I care about what it does for me. Then you need to include a reason why. We've talked a little bit about that. And finally, the call to action. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this before I move on and talk about the whole lead generation. The call to action, I think too few people have good calls to action. The call to action I often see on things, on these pages, are things like book now, call now. That's a really poor call to action for two reasons. One, I don't know what the next step is. And the reason that I'm unlikely to click on that button to call now is because I don't know whether or not what I'm committing myself to is a large thing, suddenly finding myself with a large bill, or a very small step. So I always encourage people to have small calls to action and to be very specific. So use this button to book a 15-minute free, no obligation call with me. Use this button to download our best offer. I need to know that I'm not making a large commitment, and I am only making, I'm only going a small distance down the journey to purchasing with you. So calls to action are so important that you actually put to people, you actually let people know that you need to do a small call, they're making a small step, and you need to be very specific about what that step is, so that when they do take that action, they don't feel overcommitted. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So, okay, let's go back to our lead generation process. We're trying to, let's say, for instance, get somebody to make an appointment to have a discussion with us. We have a landing page on which they can book a time with us. So what do? We post on social media. My suggestion to you is, if you're posting on social media, one of the things you should be doing is referencing this landing page, essentially driving people from your social media posts towards the landing page where they can find out more information about your product or service. So every one of your social media posts needs to have this call to action, find out more, and get more details at our landing page. We can also capture their email address on this landing page, and we do this through something called a lead magnet, where you give something away for nothing. It might be a small conversation with you. It might be a free chapter of your book. And you do this in exchange for somebody's email address. You can then feed your email address into a system such as MailChimp. And the two things that you can do from that, because this is something that somebody has given to you voluntarily, you can then actually give them information and educate them, and also start to suggest they might want to meet with you in order to be able to have this appointment. So you educate them on what it is you're going to do to help them solve their problems, how it is you're going to actually sort of work with them. You give them examples of people you've worked with before, those social proofs that people actually have been working with, and they've given you results. So you can educate them on why it is it would be good for them to work with you. So in exchange for that lead generation system, for that email address, you then educate them on what it is you can do to help them. Finally, the other thing that you can do cold outreach to people if you haven't met them. Now, I do caution you greatly about people who do this. I know a lot of people do it. I know it's an important element, but please do this with care, because the one thing you don't want to do is immediately send them straight to this saying, please work with me. You also don't want to do it from your social media. Those are really bad things to do. You just don't want to do that. You really need to take people through to get permission. So if you are going to write to somebody who you don't know, don't do it multiple times, but do it and suggest they go to your landing page in order to get more information about your product or service. Obviously, when you're there, what you would hope that they would do is take advantage of your free offer of a free chapter of your book or something else, and voluntarily give your email address so you can then voluntarily educate them about what it would be like to work with you or what your product is about, and then lead them towards having a relationship. What you don't want to do is immediately send them information about your product or please work with me or anything like that. Please don't do this as well from your social media. Very, very few people are able to do this successfully. It tends to be very spammy. So have a regard for your customer. Make your customer aware of what you can do. Unless you've got a product which is simple, cheap, and you don't want to have a relationship with them, you're going to end up in a situation where you could end up looking very spammy if you're not careful. So that's a lead generation system that many people have been working with. And I was working with somebody yesterday on putting this process together for them. They were just beginning to start out on their business. We talked through this, and I got a message from them this morning to say they'd put together their landing page already. They'd worked on it all afternoon yesterday. They'd already sent 2 emails to people they were aware of that they thought they could help. They'd already gone to the landing page. They looked at what they had on that landing page, and they'd already booked an appointment. So they already started doing this less than 24 hours after we'd had a conversation, which I thought was remarkable. And the reason they credited the success was they said that this format of everything that we talked about on here had convinced people that they were talking to that they had got something that they needed to speak to them about. And they said particularly the fact that they had the social proofs on the landing page, lots of testimonials of people they'd worked with in the past, convinced one person that they had to have a conversation. So this works. This is something which absolutely does work. They were able to take some email addresses that they hadn't worked with in the past, already pointed them towards this landing page, and they'd already got an appointment to go and talk to them today in order to see whether or not they're interested in working together. So I'm just going to wrap this up quickly so we can deal with questions about one element of team cohesion, because it doesn't matter whether or not you've got a team at the moment. In order to be able to continue in your business, you do need to have people you're going to work with. So being a good manager of tasks and leaders needs some sort of process. I've developed something over the years I've been in business that I call the 4 pillars of management. And I'm going to talk about one of those things at the moment. The first thing that I taught one of the people that I worked with in my business was how to delegate. And the reason I taught them how to delegate was because I needed them to be able to go into a meeting and get other people to work with them, even though they had no real power to work with them. So I taught them how to do this delegation. The other thing that I taught them was how to coach people. I taught them how to give them feedback, and I did this all through the fact that they were having one-to-one meetings with them. And these 4 pillars was the bedrock of the business that I ran for a number of years. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how you delegate, because I think most entrepreneurs and solopreneurs take what I call the path of least resistance. We cling on to things far too long and don't actually let go of doing things so that other people can help us. And I have taught this process of delegating, a 4-step process, for years now. The first step of working out how to delegate some work from your plate onto somebody else is to work out what only you can do. Once you've worked out what only you can do, the first thing you have to do is cling onto those things and then work out who can help you do the stuff that you either can let go to somebody else or you want to let go of. So who is the person around you? Now, that could be somebody who you've got from Fiverr. It could be somebody you're getting from TaskRabbit. It could be somebody that you're going to get in your family who's going to help you. But you've worked out that they can do something because it's not something that only you can do. Then you approach them and ask for help. It's as simple as that. You just have to go up to them and say, I need help. Please, can you take this on for me? And once they've said yes, you can ask them, you can start delegating the work to them. And there's a really simple way of doing it. The first is you tell them what it is you need them to do. I need you to do this. Then you have to tell them, this is when I need it back from you. I need you to have finished it by that. Let's give an example. I need to get this report written by the end of next week. You then tell them, this is how I know it's done. It's got to be it's got to be this good. This is how well it's done at the moment. I need you to do it at least as well as this. And then I need you to tell me when you have got to some way into doing what you're asking them to do, so that you can actually just check back that they're still on track. You can't just leave it until the last minute and say, how are you getting on? The best way of making sure that they all stay on track with this is to just say, in a couple of days, we've got a week to do this. In a couple of days, can you tell me where you are? And we need to just make sure that if there are any problems in this, I help you out. Because obviously the last thing you want to do is leave it until the last minute and then discover they're never going to deliver it on time. So if it's something like a report, I need you to just tell me tomorrow where you are. I need to be able to check with you what's happening tomorrow. And it's as simple as that. Okay, so those are the 5 components of your engine. I'm very aware that we're sort of a little bit over the time that we are supposed to be. So I'm perhaps rushing a bit, but let's just go back through them. You need a vision and goals. Those goals are going to be measurable and time-bound and allow you to stay focused and motivated on achieving those outcomes and to measure how close you're getting to them. You need a lead generation system. I'll walk through one that I've used quite successfully. That produces a controllable and continuous flow of leads into your prospect funnel. One thing that I would caution you to do is, if you get very busy, what you don't do is turn off the leads. You slow it down. Remember the farmer who started digging when it was raining, and a person came up to him and said, why are you digging the field? And the farmer turned around and said, I'm digging in the field because I'm digging a well. And the visitor to him said, but why are you digging when it's raining? And he said, because at the moment the ground is soft and the digging is easy, but when the drought comes, I want to be able to access the water. When you've got business coming in, the last thing you want to do is turn off your flow of leads, because when you need to ramp up your flow of leads again, you'll find it really difficult. So you need to be able to just turn it down, send fewer emails, drive fewer people to your landing page, but don't stop, because you do need to continually bring people through to talk to them to be able to start buying your product. Then you need a system, things written down so that you can step away from your business if you want to, so that you can produce excellence, because things are written down, things are consistent, and you are able to bring customer satisfaction consistently through having a written down process. Then you need to be able to delegate, because if you don't delegate, you can't, once again, leave the business for more than a few weeks. You can't get to the stage where you're able to sort of deal with family issues, deal with holidays, be able to actually use this as a business which is not driving you, but you are driving it. And finally, you really do need to be really aware of your profitability. There is no point in selling your product or service for less than it costs you to produce. You will go bust. You need to be able to reduce the time it takes from when you give somebody a service or a product and when you pay them. Because once again, if you run out of money, I know so many businesses that ran out of money. They never ran out of customers. They never ran out of ideas. They run out of money because they're selling their product or service too low, and they're asking for the money far too late. So once again, you have to have a process in place, a system in place that drives people towards coming back and paying their bills on time. So those are the 5 components of the driving engine of your business. Each one of those components is critical and drives growth and momentum. Any one of them is something that you can install in your business now, even as you start. And it doesn't have to wait until you've got a big business before you start writing things down and starting that process of making things consistent. Absolutely get it into your DNA now that you do that, so that you can actually ensure that you have got a business that will grow and will stay consistent as you grow it. I think I'm a bit over, Alice, so I'm going to turn over now and find out if there are questions or if I can answer any questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stuart. And I think we've all definitely, or I personally have definitely taken a huge amount from that presentation. You did an amazing job of delivering that in such an understandable way. So really, thank you so much.
No
and
problem.
don't worry about going over time. It's important to do, isn't it, when it's an in-depth topic like this. Everybody is very quiet today, so I think you've blown them away with this presentation. But Alexandra says in the chat there, thank you. And then she's put so valuable in capital. So lovely. Thank you, Alexandra. I'm very sorry. I can just see your iPhone. I can't see your name. So that's on me.
I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you. My name's Enda Benra. I just wanted to know, just a quick question, if I may. So you talk a lot about, well, not a lot, but you mentioned delegation, part of a team, etc. But I'm part of a very small business that I'm starting up myself, and at the moment I am doing everything myself because number one, I can't afford to sort of pay somebody, and number two, there's not enough for me to kind of delegate at the moment. How does that sort of apply to my business? Would I still need that kind of helping hand? Do I need a team, or how does it work in that sense?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name when you started.
Oh, sorry, it's Enda.
Enda, look, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
going to mute myself because it's loud here. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Look, we all go through this a little bit when we begin starting up our business. There are 2 things that you've got to be. You at some stage, you are going to want to take a break. So even if now you haven't got a team that you can delegate to, you may find that you need to take a bit of a break and you need help from a friend. Just say to somebody, look, can you look after things whilst I go away for the weekend, or I need to go away to deal with something. My suggestion is that you use this same process that I just said to you now about how you get them to look after it, even if you're not paying them. Because the one thing that you need to do is make sure that they understand what it is you need them to do and how you will know when they have done it properly. Because too often we do this, could you just look after things? Yes, that's no problem. Okay, over to you then. And you haven't given enough detail to somebody to say what it is you need them to do, how you need them to do it, how they'll know they'll be successful, what you need to know in order to make sure that everything's on track. So even if at this stage you haven't got a team, but you just need a break, you need to just have in your mind, how is it I am going to ask somebody else to help me when I need it, even if I'm not paying them. So don't take the path of, I call it least assistance. Don't do I'll just do it all myself, because you'll burn out. So you need to find ways of working with people. And sometimes that means doing a swap. You do a bit of this for me, I'll do a bit of that for you. And I've done huge numbers of when I've started businesses where I've just sort of, we've agreed to help each other, but I use the same process. I use the same words as if I was delegating work to one of my staff. Does that help?
Yes, that does really help. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A bookie seems to have a question. I don't know if that's.
Oh, you're on mute, lovely. You should be off mute now.
Okay, I still can't hear. I don't know if that's.
Your mic might not be working. No, that's not coming through. If you want to either pop it in the chat, or you can leave the meeting and come back. Sometimes it fixes, Zoom's quite tricky with the audio, or feel free to pop your question in the chat and we can answer as well. There we go. I think we will raise, I think that we can raise that hand because I think we've answered those questions. Would anybody else like to ask a question while we wait for Bookie to come back? You are very welcome. Oh, is that Daniela? Yes, go ahead, Daniela.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. First of all, thank you very much. Can you see me?
I can.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is, I'm just starting to build, like a consultancy to offer mentoring to leaders and executives. And, like, I wonder, like, since now we have AI that helps a lot, many kind of businesses, I wonder if you could, or if you could share any apps or, like websites where, like solo entrepreneurs can also get help in order to, because I don't have a team either at the moment, but like I know that we can get like help from some websites or like maybe some tools that maybe you can share would be great.
Yeah, there's an explosion of them at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah.
So the ones that I'm using a little bit. So for writing, there's one that I use called Texter.ai, which is really good at helping with writing, which is good for sort of blog posts and things like that. I also I do get help from things like Upwork, which are quite useful.
Mm-hmm.
The thing which you're really going to need though for your business, Daniela, is that social proof. And I don't know if you've got those testimonials, but if you haven't got those, get out and gather those and use something like Texter to turn them into really good write-ups of how you've helped people. So that's the thing that I would use, is something like that in order to sort of craft those testimonials, those case studies into something really compelling.
That's great. I do already have some testimonials. Thank you so much. And if I could answer, ask you one more thing regarding social media, like what do you recommend? Shall we focus on just like one or two, or
where is your audience? Where is your audience?
I believe my audience is more on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Then focus on LinkedIn and Instagram. I mean, the secret is where I sort of I'll just show the elements again. The thing which is so important about this slide is if you are targeting somebody, you have to know who they are and where they are. And once you know where they are and what language they use and what sort of questions they're asking themselves, you can address those questions. So there's no point in putting loads of messages out on Twitter if they're not on Twitter. There's no point in putting out loads of messages on TikTok if they're not on TikTok. So if you've done your perfect client avatar and you know who they are and where they are, their perfect client avatar will tell you that they're on LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn and talk to them on LinkedIn. If you know they're on Instagram, go to Instagram and let them know. If they're not online and they spend all their time in the gym, go to the gym. But you need to know that by doing this piece of work here, knowing who they are and where they are.
Thank you so much.
Bookie, have you come back? Have you been able to solve your problem?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. So I resonate with everything that you've said. And just over the last week, because mine's a startup, I'm managing an accountancy practice.
Okay.
And I've kind of siloed, I know my target audience.
Good.
But what I've found is I struggle, as with a lot of entrepreneurs, with just talking to people about what I do and being able to sell myself or the services that I do quite well.
Yeah.
So what I was going to do was get some salespeople and kind of, you know, give it to them or engage them on a commission based,
Okay.
you know, based on commission. And I just wonder, is that something that makes sense to do?
So I think
and
it
that frees up
does.
my time.
Yes,
It
it
will free up
does.
my time.
It does. It does. It does. The thing that you will need to prepare is this bit. You'll need to prepare the sort of the much of this on the right. What is the irresistible offer you're giving to your salespeople, and what are the benefits that you're asking the salespeople to go out and sell for you, especially the reasons why. Now, you will need to do this. You can't expect them to do it. What I would suggest to you is there's some other stuff that I could talk about, but I haven't got time, and maybe Alice will ask me very nicely to come back and talk about this. But one of the things that I do talk about is how you turn a service like you've got into a product, and the thing that sort of focuses on is trying to sort of sell the intangible benefits behind working with an accountant. Let me give you an example. One of the people I'm working with at the moment is a cybersecurity company. Now, what are they selling? They're selling the fact that their customers don't get hacked. That's an almost intangible thing to sort of talk about. So what we've done is we've turned that into something called Iron Fortress. And Iron Fortress is now a thing which you can sell. You can talk to people about you're buying Iron Fortress. And Iron Fortress sounds like a thing. So what I would suggest to you, Bookie, is you're not selling accountancy. You're selling peace of mind from the from HMRC. So you need to turn it into a thing. So you're selling tax protection. And so you need to sort of focus on what are the benefits of tax protection, and why should you buy it from Bookie rather than KPMG? You need to sort of turn your service into a something that has this stuff on it, like an offer, benefit, reasons why, what's the next step. And then you give that over to a sales guy and say, go sell that for me, because a salesperson can think in those terms. But you need to do the work first to turn your service into a product a salesperson can take and actually make happen.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that's given you more work than I thought you were hoping for. You
No,
thought
I've started working on that actually, you know, the benefits, because it's important that I highlight the benefits, as opposed to, I guess anybody who employs me knows I'm an accountant and I've got the skills, but I need to be able to tell them what value I'm bringing to them.
So I could spend another hour talking about this, but essentially that service to product translation revolves around three things. One of which is the benefits, the reason why, the proven process. So that's why I sort of talk about this coming into the anatomy of the landing page, because it also then goes into some other stuff that I talk about, which is how do you then turn that into a process that when you sort of say to somebody, the next step is this, they go, yeah, I could do with that. Okay, I'll shut up now, Alice. You can.
No, that was really good. And I think what I like about these questions actually is that they're so applicable to so many of us actually. And I think it comes into, I know that in the Jumpstart program at the moment, they've been working, that cohort have been working on their brand positioning statement, which is kind of quite similar to what you were talking about then,
Yeah.
Stuart. I think no matter, and actually it was in my weekly email, if anybody got that today, about no matter where you are in your business, you can always go back to your brand positioning statement and you can always tweak and improve it. And it really is, you know, one of the foundations that really influences everything, like you said today, Stuart. So yeah, I'm really happy that we've been able to touch on that. We do have a couple more minutes, so if anybody else would like to get some questions answered and you're feeling brave and you want to come and chat to us, please do. And thank you to everybody that has come and chatted to us. Like I say, you've really enriched the discussion today, so thank you very much. Please do feel free to pop your hands up. And Just wanted to say thank you to Alexandra there in the chat, who's been sharing some tips on getting the mic working and also making some suggestions. Thank you, Alexandra. Claire's just popped something there. How do you ensure high conversion? That's a great question, Claire.
High conversion basically comes from this. It comes back to this. If you've got all of those elements on your sales and marketing, you have high conversion. Most people, when they don't convert, is because they have an objection. They don't want to make the next step. So there are reasons why they might look at it and go, I don't believe you're going to deliver. So you counter that with a good guarantee, with a business punishing guarantee. They might turn around and say, I don't want to take the next step because it sounds as if I'm going to end up overcommitting. So you have a great call to action. What's the next step? They turn around and say, I don't believe I'm going to get the outcome. Well, you've got a proven process which actually shows the outcome, and you've got other people you've worked with which actually demonstrates you're able to do it. They might turn around and say, this isn't for me. Well, if you targeted it at the right person and you've done the perfect client avatar, you're absolutely targeting it in the right language, in the right way. So every one of those 10 elements addresses one element of the conversion process. And the reason that I put all 10 down is because those were all the 10 that I fell over when I started my businesses. And I kept getting fed up of the fact that my customers didn't convert. And I kept thinking, why is this? Like a good scientist, I went back to the reasons and worked out, wait a minute, I didn't actually give them an irresistible offer. Oh, we forgot to talk about benefits. We talked about features. We didn't tell them that this was going to end up with this and that we could do it. We'd done it before. We didn't demonstrate it to them with a good social proof. So every one of these was worked out because I'd made a mistake. And I started going back and working out where I'd made a mistake. And all 10 of those address every single one of the objections of customers I've had in the past, and now I've overcome that. So I've got a much higher conversion ratio.